So I wanted to actually make something that was more like a lens or microphone. To us, it's kind of closer to like a radio telescope than it is just one that made for hearing.
Yeah, people, when we do that, we'll say a lot of interference and things.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, that's actually being activated. We're starting to get when we get to the reveal. I feel like if I'm using MIDI, maybe all because MIDI is kind of designed to like make this sound like make this sound like a guitar. And MIDI is still an incredibly stable, interesting language that can have many purposes. And that's where we kind of said, well, and MIDI is about like these discrete signals in one time. It's even voltage data to MIDI on a musical scale, and then we can kind of use MIDI to just transfer information in a very efficient way that has like almost zero lag, and this is like very active. So when you that's what it kind of looks like. This is kind of the sound of it. The test for us was always like to create something that the tiniest movement had the biggest effect. That was proof of that we understood the universe we were operating. So move it like a centimeter makes that. It's similar like with the guitar. You move it a little bit, you should be able to make this. Yeah, so there was along the way we had all these thought experiments. One of them was we want to create something that's so dynamic that the smallest movement that was proof that we made something that became a tool. It's like when you use a hammer, it takes a nail, puts it into wood, and it's the only way to do it. Sort of, we have to make a tool in that sense. So. Thing two is like this is a TV that's we love my upstream things. So there's like this is just playing. Various mixes. Studying Einstein is Einstein was really just trying to prove that the world, we use geometry to like explain the world, but geometry is just abstraction. That's sort of like the Cliff Notes version of this. When we design oscillators and things and all these abstract systems, it's like, oh, 120 hertz or this hertz, like that amount, and it's all graphically shown, but in reality, the world is many, many dimensions at once, and it's like, why reduce it, why that? So these EMF fields are coming out at all different angles and moving. And it's like this is a way to kind of capture that and kind of make it a tool because it is a threshold. It's like you can go really far really quick. We even found that recently that it's going transfer vibrations. We're like sending up sort of like hitting percussion, and this is like these are magnetic fields that are interacting. The cool thing with this is you see that magnetic field here, and then there's a magnetic field here, and when magnetic fields come together, they unite like a third thing. So almost never like 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's like that's Euclidean geometry. This is like 1 plus 1 equals multidimensional over a tree. You know? So this is kind of like where we began, and when we kind of opened the door to all this, we realized that the coding side had to be just as interesting, and that's where someone like Jordan, who was a friend that we trusted, and we just wanted to get crazy and make weird things with, was totally on board with it. So I don't know, Jordan, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience in all this. So.
Yeah, for sure. So when I got into the company, the Bean box did not look like that. It looked like a PCB that you just kind of held in your hand and wave stuff over, and we looked at it on the computer to see what the output was. So now it's come a long way, but one of the things that people often ask us at demos is like, so what's synthesizing the sound? Is it an oscillator inside or something? And the answer is no, there are 33 inductors on top, and it's just a one-to-one analog process. So, we have it set up with all these other devices and things to really dress up the sound, but, basically what you hear through the inductors is, and I don't know if we want to demo that, just drive, but, you hear, like if you use this Ferris, or if you use like a power drill, you can hear the sound of the motor. If I wave my phone over it, you hear those little crackles of interference. Like if your phone's next to like some cheap speakers that don't have the shielding on.
So this is kind of just the pure like audio sound.
And because the inductors kind of work like a speaker in reverse, you can actually play the sound through the speaker, like the speaker on the radio or even through your phone, and it will pick it up wirelessly. Like you can get audio without plugging in anything. There are audio inputs as well, but you can just hear it straight.
Yeah, and the thing with this is, there's this thing called the electro switch, which is like they call it EMF sniffers, and they use like 2 inductors to like go over something, and you hear something that just sounds like static. But the problem with that whole system is it's kind of stopped there, because I feel like it was like a novelty and then no one stopped. But we're like, well, that's not nothing. That static you hear, if you had like a millisecond of that and you stretch it out to be an hour, and there could be a whole message, and you could write 1,000 books with all the data in there. So that's why
There's a reason we have 33 inductors. We found that like the more inductors, the richer the sound was than if you just had a couple.
Yeah, because at a certain point, like it's a little bit sort of under the hood proprietary stuff. At a certain point, there's like these physical doors that open when you kind of push the limit, because we didn't want to do anything like it's been done, because it just was not interesting enough for us. Like, why 11? Well, because 11 is more interesting number than 10 or 12. Why 3? Because stereo is, who invented stereo? I feel like it's a record company that invented stereo. It's like the first number in the ordinal numbers that gives you access to the way the universe can work. So, and then also 3 channels of 11 mathematically, and when you plug it into everything, just the math comes up really fast. And that sound there, this is just like no effects. Like that sound, you could just a little bit of that's a flame to this thing.
You're really good at the sound design.
So here's what automatic tech.
Yeah. So yeah, so kind of before we got into introduction, I was kind of alluding to how the CV and MIDI outputs work. The CV is the 0 to 5 volts, and the MIDI has 6 channels of output, The first three are note data. It's the same note data coming at different speeds. We have like a certain number of notes per second, basically, that are coming out that are following the amplitude. And then channels 4, 5, 6 are all CC data exclusively, and each of them has 3 CC outputs. So on CC1, CC2, and CC3. So that's 9 CC outputs total. 1 is the least interpolated, 2 is kind of medium, and 3 is the most interpolated. So you have a more to less chaotic version of the, yeah, I'll just visualize it, it's easier. This is kind of like a simple match dispatch just to show, in general, just kind of how it's working. So this is the note data, channel 1, 2, 3. This is the CD data I was talking about, 4, 5, 6. So as we give it signal, you can see it's going up. It's the notes are in the range of a grand piano, just because it's kind of more practical. And then, because not all synthesizers are going to have notes going the full range of the MIDI protocol, but the CC data is, as a visual person, I use the CC data because it's just, like a digital version of the control voltage. It's just a continuous 0 to 127 signal that I mapped to different parameters. So I don't know how familiar everyone here is with Max or how much you care about getting into the weeds of how I program this, but basically, if I take out a presentation, you can start to see all the spaghetti. And this is like taking it, basically, it's taking it from the daemon box, and then I have a clever little thing I made here to kind of figure out what bytes it's supposed to be listening to. And then once those are all sorted, it sends it to the router here, and so it unpacks the note on and note off messages, and then the CC here. But anyway.
Yeah, the one thing I was really inspired with that, once we realized the digital side, we kind of realized too that we needed to up the engineering of it, where, I kind of hate that things become obsolete. It's like if a piano, like every 10 years you had to like reinvent the piano. It's kind of, so for us, we want to make something that it could hopefully work in 50 years. Like, the idea that obsolescence is just like a corporate thing. We wanted to actually make something that, because in the future there won't really be a distinction between, the visuals and music. It's all going to be connected as it should be because it always is connected. So it's like when you hear a piano piece is one thing, but when you see a piano player playing, it's the same experience, but and the same sound. But whenever you see them playing it, it makes it real. It makes it so. I think people are going to want to be connected, and so.
Question. Does it also have OSC?
It does not do OSC. It just does MIDI and CD at the moment. But we have thought about it.
Is there a microcontroller analyzing the magnetic fields?
Yes.
And you just have it programmed to receive them as APCs?
That's basically what generates the MIDI and CD, yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like an envelope follower kind of process.
What's the microprocessor?
It's, can I say?
It's called the Daisy. It's open.
The Daisy, yeah.
The Daisy by Electros.
Yeah. I mean, we made it so that savvy people can go into it and remap it and do their own thing with it because it's kind of like making a car and saying you can only play Led Zeppelin on it. No, it's like you want to make an instrument that you can play whatever you want on it. This is kind of to get you off the ground, but we're open to having people get crazy with it. So.
Yeah. So yeah, basically internally it's got the seed and then it's got the inductors and sending that data, and then there's the knobs in the front, which you may have noticed, which are for there's 3 audio inputs, and Daisy's also processing the audio input so that when you plug in audio, it also will follow the amplitude. So even without using the inductors on top, audio coming in will also affect the MIDI and CD in the same way. So you can just, like, let's say, an easy example is like, say, a house track when you're constant 4 on the floor kick drum, you would plug it in, you would see the meters pulsing following that amplitude. So you automatically have basically a synchronized, data stream that you could then route to audio or.
Is an envelope follower independent of the inductors?
Yes. So you can combine that. You can go with the inductor audio or the inductor data and the audio as well. and there's switches in the front that allow you to choose between inductors only, inductors and audio, audio only, and silence.
Yeah, I mean, another reason why we kind of wanted EMF to be we really saw it as an oscillator that it shouldn't be digital, because the problem with digital is that I feel like my connection with coding is it's like very prejudicial. It's like, it really feels like this is just the language that's being put upon it by people who know how to code instead of like really listening. So this is like an instrument that we don't really produce sound, just as a way of listening to people. Because I think if you actually start listening to all the music is already there, you don't have to like make an oscillator that's just like this perfect coded thing. Because before I started this, I was studying things like, I was studying anthropology, I was studying musicology, I was studying like world music. I'm like, why is everything that's supposedly the best like from Europe sort of thing? All of this, and it's like, well, it's because like that's what was crammed down my ears, and at the end of the day, energy and quantum physics connects everyone throughout all cultures, and so we kind of wanted to make an instrument that exists as energy for people to connect with. So that was kind of what we wanted for.
Yeah, I like to think of the output from the Demon Box as like almost a chaotic stream of data, but then you can tap into it and take what you want from it.
Yeah, I don't really like the word chaos in the contemporary sense.
So I said kind of.
It's chaos in the mythological sense, like where creation comes from. Without chaos, we'd still be atoms of hydrogen on the edge of the universe. So.
Maybe a more friendly thing would be like subtractive synthesis. You have your noise, and then you sculpt something from the noise. So yeah. So as some of you may, sorry.
Can you change the CC number?
Yeah. Well, yes. We're kind of.
We're gonna. I mean, this is our introductory firmware. I mean, we're gonna be having other firmwares. Unlike firmwares where everyone updates at one time, we're gonna make firmwares that if you just want to do a different thing, we'll give you a firmware to do a different thing.
That as well as like if you're clever enough with Macs, you can take in the MIDI and then send it out however you want it to. You can reroute it.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of chose this system because the MIDI notes per second, it's all odd numbers because we didn't want it to fit into 16 bars of anything, or it's like everything's like 33 or 17 or 57. So it forces you to just accept that not every number in the universe is even, nor are there really numbers. Numbers are in position upon it. So because between 0 and 1, there's already infinity there, and infinitesimal. So all these numbers are just a tool to just understand this inherited things.
I also want to mention, before I get into kind of talk more about these visualizers that I've created for like our demos, but like I was saying, like this beta I feel is like very open to use because you have the CB and you have the MIDI. So basically analog, digital, whatever you want to control, it's up to your imagination. I've converted the MIDI to the CC to DMX to control stage lights. So you can extend that even further. So it can really, you can just do whatever your mind can think of to apply it. In the specific cases of these visualizers, like we have top left here is this one is I have some different, it's like a webcam. So we're controlling the different parameters on there. That one kind of again we have like the pretty version and then the not pretty version. So we have the MIDI's coming in. I'm using the same sub-patcher that captures the data I was describing and then just scaling it to the range that Max works with for these. I'm just using the simple like kind of busy modules and it just makes it easier. And I didn't mention this yet, but you can actually tune the sensitivity of the inductors. So if you're in a room that has a lot of ambient EMF and you want to harness it or maybe turn it down, it's up to you. you can actually, there's only one way to do this, and there's MIDI in through the USB port. It's mostly ignored, but if you send, I think it's like CC like 21 or something, you can tune the inductor. So actually, can we remove the EMF devices from the top? So you can see here, even with nothing on top, there's still some like ambient movement here. And so if I think I have to make this demon box, and if I just like turn all these down, you'll start to see those sliders go down to 0. And if I turn this all the way up, you can see it's much more sensitive. So that's, yeah. So, you know, that's good for if you're working with something that's not emitting as much EMF as you would like, or, you know, or if it's too much.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, I feel like the more we start to understand things, we really just wanted to make this as a tool, because like, we come from such diverse backgrounds that I feel like the worst thing we could do is impose too much and make presets and, you know, make this cool thing and make you only walk down this tiny hall of it. So it's, the goal is, you know, it's like a piano that you could change the strings if you want to, or, you know, sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying, like everything is kind of infinite. So it's like, you know, in having these inductors in here, we have to make a determination of how sensitive they should be. But why not hand that to you so you can do that?
So you release these Max patches as sort of programming interfaces?
They're not currently like on our website, but I'm planning on just having some like utility patches for people. Like if you want to download these, like I'm happy to share them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a thing where like, you know, you kind of realize that, you know, the potential of this instrument is like a collaborative thing, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, there's artists out there who will see the data and how it works, and they'll bring their art and their mind to it, and they'll just take it somewhere that we could never imagine. That to me is like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, you know, it's just like.
So yeah, I wanted to definitely be able to like provide people with, like I said, like this, because this particular thing here is like that'll save you a lot of work and Max setting up the Demon box, because this is already, you know, configured to show you to kind of do all the routing for you for the Demon box. But then beyond that, you know, any patches like the one you were talking about, like an idea of taking in like CC1 but sending it out as CC8 or whatever you'd like to do, like just things like that that kind of bridge that gap to getting it to control whatever device you want to ultimately be controlling. We use a lot of things to play the Demon box, but we also use the Demon box to play a lot of other things. There's lots of instruments out there. We have a lot of companies that we're friends with who make things that, oh, if you send it this CC value, it makes it move faster or slower or shine brighter or dimmer. So
yeah, I mean, because you don't really need even audio to use it. You can just plug the 5 MIDI into a synthesizer, take the audio out, and that's all you need. Yeah, this one's really great because this one runs off of 5 volts. So you could take this synthesizer, plug it into your computer, power and MIDI through both, and just play this, you know, on a desert island if you want to with a solar panel.
let's see. This MIDI shape here is, let's see, this one here. They're all kind of similar patches. I have like the same kind of boilerplate with the you know, the incoming MIDI, and then I have a this is my first foray into Gen. So I just have like a 3D shape here. It's like I could enlarge it.
Yeah. I mean, one cool thing too is like when I was talking about how the pandemic slowed us down and everything, you know, Max and TouchDesigner, I feel like it becomes so ubiquitous, even compared to 5 years ago. It's like if we released this 5 years ago, like the whole visual side, not as many people would know, but every year. So it's like we're just one aspect in a bigger ecosystem of all that's happening. And I think that, you know, it's kind of an interface that will allow you to access things in Max and TouchDesigner that, you know, you'd have to just, you know, I don't know how else you would get these sort of types of configurations of data, and, you know, with that aren't necessarily, I wouldn't even say it's synthesized, it's really just reacting to the field. So it's, you know, it's kind of hard. I don't really call it synthesizer. We call it, it's like an interface. It's a tool. It's an instrument. It's like a,
Yeah, people will often be like, so is it an instrument or like a fancy MIDI controller? Like, it's kind of both. It has its own audio output and it can interface with all sorts of things to control just about anything that can accept MIDI or control voltage. So, you know, and then we combine all of those things, the audio output, the MIDI to control visuals, or, you know, DMX to control lights or whatever. Like, you have a fully immersive, like, synesthetic, synchronized system of continuous signals.
yeah, like even this sound, you're like, when we were getting examples of this, like, you know, all those patterns that are happening, it just like changed our sense of time. Like, you know, if you listen to this for an hour and you're in a big warehouse and there was a speaker from the one room, you just spend an hour walking around it. You know, it's kind of like that Charles Ives thing, like the composition like happens in space as you're moving, like you know, the orchestra. It's like that's sort of a kind of a thing, you know. So.
Let's see. I'm a little green with TouchDesigner, but if you're curious, I have TouchDesigner patches here as well. Let's see. I think maybe I have to come out of this. So yeah, this one here is. This looks complicated, but all of this stuff is just every circle on the chunk. Yeah, you can ignore this entire chunk here because that's just the shape, and then it's all compiled here, and then basically there's feedback, and then the incoming MIDI, which is right here, that is being routed to the amount of white in the background, the opacity of the feedback, and the rotation speed of the little demon box I've made in here.
So in this case, the image itself that you're using, is that like a PNG that you uploaded to?
No, actually, in TouchDesigner, I just drew the shapes. So I've got like 33 circles and one big triangle.
Oh, I see.
And then it's all just being, you know, sent and amalgamated into this one shape here.
But it can easily be an image, right?
It can be an image for sure.
Or video.
I just thought it would be more scalable if I just drew it directly in the software.
Yeah, I mean, some of these were just made just to show the reaction to what we're doing, because it is a way to show how like it activates itself. It's kind of cool how it kind of reverses. Well, it appears to be reversing, kind of like, you know, like wheels of cars and like car commercials sort of thing.
Yeah, there's just a LFO that's going forward and backward, but we're increasing the speed of the LFO, the frequency, by giving it more signal. So that's that one. And then this one here, bottom left. This one is kind of similarly using like triangles. And then I have, as you can see, they're kind of pulsing with the signal, becoming larger, and then in the background is like a fractal happening, so it's drawing a fractal. I can really see it here as well, and I could also, for style, I made it black and white, but I could also have it be colorful as well. There you go.
Too is that, you know, you can just take this and plug it and go into like GarageBand and start playing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
You can take it into Ableton or like computer or something.
Yeah. And all the soft synths that ever been made, you can use it to do that as well. It's, we did this experiment last week. You know, this new reissue of that Music Mouse thing from that is a large speaker. We're playing that with this as well. It was kind of a cool conversation. So it's, yeah, I mean, I like the idea that not only do we make something that's not meant to be obsolete, but it's meant to like completely play the past in a different way and rehear potentially.
one other thing I wanted to point out with the 3D shape, and that's that you'll notice the sliders, like in here, like if you just max it out, you kind of get a little stuck. Like if you just turn it up all the way, they're all stuck in the 127. So what I did to kind of like, so you'll see the shape move, but once it hits 127, it just kind of stays there, just frozen. And I thought, well, if you're getting a high intensity signal, you don't want stillness, you want a lot of motion. So I made it so that once it hits.
Actually, let me show one thing. Okay, so you can see like that piano key at the very top of it.
Sure.
So like there's this thing where like closer is higher pitch. So like you can see that the closer is the center, the higher the pitch on the piano.
Oh yes, we're addressing it. There's 3 channels in the deck. I should have mentioned that probably. Yeah, 33 inductors are divided into 3 channels. It looks like.
And I'm hoping that a centimeter at most to go with that whole piano.
So you can see that is behaving differently from the other 2 channels.
And it's like it looks like intermittent, so he's hitting a threshold and no, it's not somewhere between. Yeah, so.
Right, and so so what I was getting at is I just have it so here is, you can see it's not quite maxed out, but then once you do, I just have it. It would normally be frozen here, but I have it where it's there's like if it's getting 127, then this opens, and it just sends like its constant stream of bangs, because that bang is what changes the color and like the rotation. So that's just a constant stream of bangs when that's open. And then once you take it back, it's it goes back to normal. But every time it hits 127, just for a second, it changes the color of the shape as well. And the background is also being controlled. It's just like RGB values. That's actually one of the reasons, like, as Alexander mentioned, we have it like sending out 3 channels of things because it takes people out of that like left-right stereo paradigm. But I actually love having 3 channels because you can map that to RGB. So there's so many things that take 3 channels instead of 2. So it's actually really great.
That's a blessing of just committing to a crazy thing.
Yeah, because you find that it's not maybe as crazy as you thought. Especially well, we talked a lot. Does anyone have any questions?
Would it also be okay for people to try it if we leave a little bit of time at the end? Like,
we kind of set it up so you kind of start off.
One of the fun things about the Demon Box is seeing because people will ask, oh, what are you supposed to play with? Like, well, whatever you want. There's no wrong or right way to do it. So pretty much anything that has ferromagnetic properties, meaning that it has magnetism or a magnet would attract it. So not like bronze or like non.
Even this thing says like a big magnet on the side.
Yeah, but also things that emit signals like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Like those make some interesting sounds as well.
Sorry? This is like a magnetic visualizer. It's a thing you get. It's called K and J Magnetics. Yeah, they you buy it in big sheets, and it kind of helps you find magnets.
is it okay to pass it around?
Of course, yeah.
And maybe what is it called?
I mean, you can pass around the Ferris.
Yeah.
And then the way to do it is put it on top of here, and then turn it on and turn it off, and you'll see how the magnetic fields change.
So you can see there's almost like flower petals. It's the EMF emitting from the magnet in the wheel. Yeah, you turn the dial.
So, if you wanted to play in a gestural way that's not making contact with the box, you would maybe wear magnetic things on your fingers or body parts.
Even with that, you don't have to get straight on the face of it. You can still.
I mean, if you just had even a pair of gloves and you hot glued some magnets on your fingers, you can do some good performative thing.
Even if I just take my phone here, you can't really see what I'm doing.
That's what you do, right?
I made some of the instruments similar to this that are more capacitive sensors for modular stuff. But yeah, I used this instrument at Nimoy Theater. It was really interesting in Los Angeles. They invited me to perform, and there was a lighting person that was just there for each performer had one lighting person assigned to them. And I was like, first time working with someone who's like such a professional lighting person. So I told her, I'm using this instrument, show her, and she was like, yeah, we can control the lights in entire theater. And I was like, wait, they have like thousands of lights. And so during the performance, I actually, with her help, mapped the entire theater with lighting. So I used Demon Box to do that, and it was like so subtle that people would not even recognize, but because there were other visuals on the screen in front, but it would make you feel, at least from description of my friends, it would make them feel like there was something behind happening as well. So people kept turning around, and I thought, like, am I doing something wrong? But yeah, the lights were coming in many directions, and I had like very kind of pulsing, subtle movement of the lights that would be activated. And I thought it was way more powerful than visuals on the screen, because when you're really far from the screen, it really affects you differently than in more like a seated theater setting. So lights, I found it to be more interesting and useful to control them.
Yeah, that's why I love like the synesthetic nature of what you can do with it, because like I said, you can route it to control just about anything, and so the more media you get involved, the more immersive it feels, and it's already kind of connected because it's all coming from the same source, so it makes it like a very expressive and powerful instrument. You can use as much or as little of it as you want. Like you can use the audio, you can not use the audio, you can use the MIDI, the CD, or not.
In terms of like physically interacting it, because I know you talked about like how it's also picking up and interacting with just like ambient feel generally, but have you also found like I'm just curious, like if you wanted to interact with it from a distance, kind of like what would be the level of magnetic force required to do that?
Yeah, I mean, something like a power drill that has like a certain voltage, because there's a relationship between voltage and magnetic field.
Yeah.
So, I think with a power drill in the hand, there's like 60 volts. But I also have like a 110 volt motor that you can do similar systems. But at a certain point, I don't know, it's there's so much you can do from closer, but it's like there's not any one way to do it, so it's find out.
I did also necessarily you can tune the sensitivity of the inductor. So if you wanted to play it from I don't know how far, but if you wanted to play it from a certain distance, you can just like increase the sensitivity. So
yeah, there was a cool thing that's happening in our studio that we don't really know where it's coming from. Or we had this all plugged in, and I was having a conversation with some friends, and like everything like it was almost like everything would discharge at the same time. And then it kept happening in a conversation like every 3 minutes, and we have no idea what caused it. But it was some electrical thing.
EMF attack.
Yeah, it was like I don't know if it was like a satellite or something. I don't really know what it
Solar
was.
flares.
Whatever it was, it's kind of cool because like it just triggered everything, and it was spooky because we were talking about something and we said someone's name when it wasn't there. Like, are they listening or something?
It's the ghost in the machine.
Yeah, it was kind of spooky. Like, you don't really know what caused it.
You mentioned that the CV goes 0 to 5 volts.
That's right.
And I wondered why 0 to 5 is to negative 5 to 5, or if you had been thinking about specific equipment to interface it with.
That would be a better question for our technical, our electrical engineer who is not here. I was saying it was plus or minus 5 volts, and then I was correct until it was incorrect. So I don't know what the decision making process is. I don't know if you know, but
yeah, I mean you can if you have modular equipment, it kind of is an envelope follower that can you can hear it through synthesizers, it can modulate voices. It can also be like used for modulating filters. But a lot of modular equipment now too, you can take the MIDI and plug it into and get microtonal MIDI things. You can put the audio into it. So if you wanted to, you could plug this entire thing into like a modular rack and do many different parameters.
And I think there's also modules that you can like expand the width of the voltage anyway. So if you want it to be plus or minus 5, I think it would just open that up. Also, I know a lot of video synth modules, like LZX, or they work with like plus or minus 1 volt or
Yeah, the video stuff.
Yeah. So you can then take that 0 to 5 and then make it plus or minus 1.
Yeah.
And then forget the attenuate and plug that into your modules and it will work just fine with it.
I end up using MIDI to CV module on my rack and then was routing through that, which may be not the best way, like knowing that there's a CV as well, like it doesn't make sense to do it probably, but because I needed visuals and lighting at the same time.
Channels.
Yeah.
No one will stop you. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like all of us grew up being told there's like a way to do things, and we kind of made it so there's no one way to do it. It's like a rebellion against that.
We've had a lot of creative challenges to overcome whenever we set up for an event. We need MIDI to go here and here, and how are we going to get it from one place to the other? And also with the, like I said, like DMX. I kind of wish I brought like a little LED light with me, but I have a little converter box that just does like the MIDI to DMX conversion, and so I can show you like you can route it whatever parameters your light has, whether it's the red, green, blue value, the overall brightness. You set the strobe speed. It would be chaotic, but if you wanted to, you could map it to like if it has a motor, you could make it so like it goes up and down.
Yeah, because there's 3 channels here that are spatialized, so that's where these triangles, they're kind of like this triangle spatial. These are analogous. So if you had 3 speakers in 3 corners and you moved it around, it would come from all different sides. So it's like physically spatialized, not like synthesize it. It's just that's how it's set up in here too. So you can. Jordan was like setting up different MIDI parameters on this side, so you can control it if you want to do like vertical lines.
Oh, right. Yeah, I can show that.
Yeah. And there was one time where you did make one of those lights kind of move with it too. Like it's kind of like if we had endless time, we could make it just like stuff.
Here, I'll use this one down here. So the way that this effect here works is it just kind of looks like, oh wow, it's a pretty squishy effect, but there's actually 3 different parameters that move as well at the same time. There's a vertical, a horizontal, and then a color offset. And as Alexandra was mentioning, the arrangement of the inductors is kind of in a way where they're like concentric spirals. So if you come at it from the outside of the inductor field, you can kind of address like one channel if you want to. This magnet's a little big, but I can try it. Maybe I'll use this one. But so rather than saying kind of all of it together, if I just come at it from here, you can see that's the this would be the horizontal, I think. So you can kind of see it's like maybe this one's better. So yeah, you can see that's just the vertical or the horizontal, and then this one that's the vertical. See? And then if I come at it here, you don't see horizontal or vertical motion, you just see the color offset. So it's like not moving, it's just the colors are getting kind of weird. Yeah. I mean, this is a little bit different because there's a magnetic field, but once you combine it all, that's when you get like the combination of the effect.
And for somebody, for example, who is working with video, is it possible to have like a video file instead of the input from the camera as the background and then adding objects onto that move and so that the image behind it is doing its own thing that's predetermined and then other elements can be activated?
For sure. Yeah, if you want to bring in multiple layers of video or something like that and juxtapose them, you can definitely do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a live feed. It could be a pre-recorded video. It's being affected the same way, more or less. It's just whether it's an input or an external file, it's going into some effects modules, and those are then manipulating the signal and then outputting it.
And you can use it with any program.
Sure,
like
anything that accepts
QBAP
MIDI,
or like
yeah.
anything.
Yep, Max, MSP, and TouchDesigner what I've worked with, but I've also worked with like Ableton Live and Logic, different styles, like anything that accepts MIDI, it'll work with it.
Do
Yeah, I
you,
mean,
do you have an Ableton on your computer? Maybe we can just demo that as well.
because one thing I've seen is, how people like connect the Connect cameras and everything is, the problem is like even the tracking that you see, it's still on an XY axis. It's still in that framework, whereas this is like multi-dimensional. So, I'm not saying one is as better than the other, but it gives you another tool that doesn't do it the same way. So if you have both, we actually in our dance performance, we have a resynthesis program that's running using a camera and a demon box to kind of modulate the video that's being projected, and there's a whole side to it that is.
Does the TV have speaker output, or should I just do it on my computer?
It's better to switch from mixer to a mixer to your computer output
Okay, I'll just do
to use
computer output.
these.
I don't have output of my computer. I'll just do it on the speakers on my computer and just turn it up.
Oh wait, it doesn't have audio output.
It does have audio output. I just don't have it plugged into anything at the moment. Right now, the only thing plugged in is the demon box. I could do output to the TV. I just don't know how loud it is. Can I actually turn this? I'm just trying to listen to it. I'll just. Here, 1 second. I'm sorry. I think I need to change my MIDI setup in here, because this was on an older version of the firmware that worked differently. There we go. Let's see if I. Yeah. Okay, that's. I'll just do this. That strap is gonna kill me. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. So I have a few different. If you just have it set to like the general MIDI piano sound, it doesn't sound very impressive. It just sounds like. But if you take a sound that actually has an interesting sonic character, then when it goes up and down those keys, it actually has kind of a really interesting sound to it. I'm sorry?
What is your counter?
What am I using?
Yeah.
So I have, this is just some,
Would you be able to put it on the main?
yeah, this is the Corgan 1 BST.
And are those free?
No, they're not free.
But there are a lot of online free.
Sure, I mean, I'm just picking something that has a more interesting sound.
Complex. Okay.
Yeah, I could do something that's more accessible, but yeah, but you can see here the keys are moving just like in the Max patch, and I can go in here and I can pick a different sound if I wanted to. But I have 3 different sounds happening at the same time. One's falling channel 1, one's falling channel 2, and one's falling channel 3. And then I'm also using the CC messages in here to control the amount of, the amount of the echo. Yeah. So, that would be coming from. anyway, this is like a year-old patch, so I don't want to like get too in the weeds. But yeah, you could map the CC, like I said, to like control like the knob of like how much reverb, how much delay.
And have you set up like
The
to
MIDI.
to register the demon box as a MIDI?
It's just a MIDI device.
Okay.
So I can come in here, go to MIDI, and then you can see in Demon Box, out
Yeah.
Demon Box.
Yeah, we wanted to make it as reliable as possible in the firmware, so we plug it in. Because I am adverse to a lot of technology in that, and on my own that's a liability, but in a group when you're designing something, it's like, oh, let's bring to the burn, like let's design something for Alexandra because she doesn't know how to do this. It becomes like, and then we make it more usable. So it's, you know, the thing is we also pulled no punches with it. There's not like a version that's like for everyone. This is like what it is. It's like that's in designing something too. I kind of can't stand like when people design something, they like kind of pull it back for the rest of the world. It's like, this is the best we could ever do in the time we've had with our resources.
Yeah. Any other questions?
In a world where you are gifted with more resources, what would you want to do?
Well, we're working on another instrument that is kind of top secret, but the thing is, like, the thing is mostly that like I love like, because the problem to me is like, you know, the way things have been done is just a system. It's like a system of sound, system of you know, so like we're actually building a new system of sound. So that's what I can say is this is just the corner, like the first block in this big system we're making that can interact with things in a different way. Because I think systems thinking has more potential because, you know, at the end of the day, we have so many devices and tools, but we have to figure out ways they all interact and work together. And that's why MIDI is everywhere. MIDI is like a system, it's a language, and you know, MIDI will be around forever, and it's very efficient. It's like, it's incredibly almost perfect, you know. So, but then the problem is like when people are doing like MIDI 2.0 or something, they're doing it. Everything's still on an X and Y axis. And even though it's keyboards where it's like, I can get the middle tones or something, it's still based on X and Y axis. You know, but, you know, I feel like, you know, the message is like, you know, in the world after Einstein is that like, we have to move away from geometry if we want to make music for the future. You know, geometry is, it's important if you're being an architect and if you're doing other things, but if you want to understand nature, you have to like throw geometry away and just like listen and feel energy as it comes down the pipe and not always digitize it in the easiest way and like meditate on how it could be done instead of just being like, oh, this is how it's been done. So.
I also think it's worth mentioning that for all of like the you know, the high level stuff going in, you also had a lot of inspiration from what I understand about accessibility when it came to this instrument.
Oh yeah, no. The thing is, for most of its production, it had like no graphics on it, and part of it was because I didn't want a privileged sight on it. So it's an instrument that, you know, if you can't see, you can feel where everything is, and it's also an instrument that you can play with just one hand. You don't have to play with two hands. It's like, I feel like that was kind of a thing. You can do the smallest movements. If you can only move the smallest amount, you can still do something with it. That's sort of the bigger implication of it. And it kind of came from this thing, I remember like maybe 2009 or 10, there's this a PSA that Stevie Wonder did about when all smartphones came on, like there's no way to touch keys anymore, and people with visual impairment, they felt exiled from technology. And so, you know, that's kind of why I didn't want to make something on like a touch screen. I wanted to be like physical. So if you're visually impaired, you can still play this. And so we only started putting graphics on it in like the last year and a half. So it was like we kind of proved that it could work without being able to see it, but only feel it. And that was like a key part of it.
And I think if you really know what you're feeling around for, you don't even need the graphics to know what kind of port you're accessing.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird thing where like, you know, when people, you know, there's a lot of words that we talk about. We talk about privilege and we talk about it in an intellectual way, but when it actually comes down to it, like, we have to design ways to subvert it into what we're making for the future. We can't just give lip service to the world. We have to like build physical things that people can use differently. Okay.
You want to play with it?
Oh yeah, we will.
Yeah, maybe we should move into the demo portion, just let everyone kind of get up and kind of try it out.
Right, well, we can stand
We have one that's not plugged into anything, but if you just want to look at it, but then we also have this one set up with the drums and the audio and everything. There's a little lever here.
Should we do- Alexander, should we do 2 people at a time, or
Yeah, they can
Don't
Yeah.
rush the stage.
just?
Yeah, people want to come up and kind of, I can show them some things, or if you just want to.
I'll bring this one over here. You can go over here and you can come and talk to me and I can show it to you. And then I can bring back the visuals so we can have a fun little party.